I'm joined exclusively by Escape to the Chateau's Dick and Angel ahead of the release of their new book, The Chateau Forever Home. It's a beautiful book. You were only ever going to write one book, and here we are talking about your third book.
Yeah. Oh, well, we've had a lot to say.
This is exactly it. And this sort of focuses on the kind of past 3 years of life at the Chateau, doesn't it? Which involves COVID, which would have obviously taken a complete turn within
completely
your lives.
It was interesting because it was something, you know, you don't really want to talk about that all the time, but actually it was the spine of this book because, you know, our business, the wedding business and everything had exploded, and we were so busy. We had a huge waiting list, and then in 2020 obviously life changed, but whilst we talk about that a lot in the book, we also talk a lot about our roof that we got done in that time.
Okay.
I was about to talk technical stuff, which we get away with.
I could see you ready to talk there.
Yeah,
that's your
roof
area.
and render. Angela makes a decision, then we have to execute it. But it was a very busy period.
Yes. But time to get things done, I suppose, as well,
Completely.
wasn't it? Just without the sort of interruptions of lots of people around you.
Yeah, exactly.
And you found it quite emotional, almost putting the book together as well, Angel.
Do you know, the process, you have to get in and, well, first of all, you've got to remember everything, and it takes a little bit of effort, and you throw yourself in there, and you've got it's all the nuances, you know, you are sort of feeling things, smelling things, and then Dick will write something and he'll trigger something that I hadn't remembered.
We see, we don't speak all the time, even though we're together as a couple, but when you write about the same story, you see two different sides.
Yeah, of course.
And because we're writing separately on a shared document, then then it starts to come together, and there are some emotional things that have happened during the period, because obviously during separation we've had losses in the family, people have died, and there's been really, things have changed a lot. And if you think about it, we only find out the detail. And I think we discovered that from the very first book, when our wedding. We didn't know what the other person did for the day of our wedding.
I think ours was a bit like that too.
But so we do an audio book, and we have done for all the three sort of memoirs. And I have to say, you know, I was expected to get a little bit tearful when I was writing about my nan's passing. But it was the Christmas party, the big finale, you know, the finale of Escape. I absolutely blubbered, and I couldn't get to the end of it, and I must have done retake after retake.
So apologies if you get the audio book. It's going to be a bit...
But the Chateau has just taken over your lives in the way that you wanted it to, you expected it to. That's what it was going to be.
Yeah.
And it's taken over our lives as well. We've been part of this story for 8 or 9 years at this stage. Yeah. We've seen your children grow up on the programme.
Well, you know how big Arthur and Dorothy are.
Exactly. You know, they're now like practically teenagers, and you know, we've seen that development. And sadly, the show is now coming to an end. You know, it's at that point, and we do know that there were a lot of headlines around as to why it was ending. How are you feeling about it now? Where are you at?
It's interesting because we were with Lorraine before Christmas explaining the end of the 9 series. You've seen Arthur. Arthur kisses Mummy in the forehead now because he's bigger. He's about to go to senior school. And as a family, we made a decision that last year was going to be the finale of Escape to the Chateau, so we finished. And with that, we told everybody at the beginning of the year, and that's now nearly 2 years ago now. Everybody's known it was finishing. And so when the story sort of came, people started talking about the end of what we were doing, it wasn't news. It was something that had happened a long time in the past. And we made the decision just not to get involved in any of the conversations because... Was it the Queen?
Well, you know, our Queen said, never complain and never explain. And, you know, I think that was just the best way because, you know, for us, like, none of it made sense because we had made that family decision a long time ago that it was the right time that Escape had sort of come to its natural end.
But this year, you see, the thing was we knew that Arthur and Dorothy have got to an age in their life where they're going forward. And when they were little, they just didn't understand what was going on. Now it's a very different world we're living in. And for us as a family, this year, we finally caught up with the weddings post-COVID, and that's ridiculous how long that has been. But we didn't restart until we could hug our granny and kiss, you know, it's that sort of a thing. And so this year has been probably silly busy.
We kind of thought we'd have more time on our hands, but...
Angela told me I would have more time.
Yes.
I mentioned the R word.
Retirement, yeah, that's going to happen, yeah.
It wasn't going to happen. Because I guess having cameras alongside you for all of that time, it eats into your time as well. You know, you are still making a programme.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you did feel like that had run its course. So you were sort of moving on now, and because the Shadow's an ever-evolving piece of work, isn't it? It just doesn't sit back and take a break.
You know, it's the fourth bridge we start. And when it comes to where we are, we haven't got all the way through yet. But what we have done is we've got to the stage where it's actually well organised.
Yeah.
And things like events. We didn't buy the Chateau for television. We bought the Chateau because Angela wanted something pretty for weddings. And that's a ridiculous statement. 2 towers and a nice place.
And you did get it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. And, you know, we're doing the weddings and events. And we find a job you like and then you don't work another day in your life. And, you know, it has been such a joy. And as Dick was sort of saying, we have caught up. And we caught up in September this year with all of our weddings and events that were booked in pre-COVID. And it was such a sense of relief because, you know, every wedding we've had, I mean, we get asked all the time, you know, you must have Bridezillas. And I think we've hosted 50, 60 weddings. We have never. It is such a beautiful moment.
You cry every time.
I cry every time.
Angela cries at every wedding.
The whole team does, you know. And even Dorothy this year, she sort of says to me, because we have this little moment where we've got the double staircase and I stand outside and just orchestrate everything. Everyone's waiting outside. And it is a really, really special moment. It's where I start crying. And Dorothy this year said to me, please, Mummy, can I come with you for that moment? And Arthur has got in straight after the ceremony. He gets on his chef's yellows and he's in the kitchen and
Taking
he's
after his
you know
daddy, yes.
it's a really sort of multi-generational sort of event, and that's kind of what we always wanted.
And I know, look, there's lots still to come. As we say, this is definitely the final book of this series, we think. But there's podcasts happening. There's a tour happening next year. I mean, it hasn't just sort of suddenly, you know, you're not retirement, like you say. The R word is not being discussed at this point.
A podcast, we have a date. We have a date every week. We go up to the top of the chateau and we sit and we chat and we talk about things that are going on. And they sort of Dick and Angel's chat.
Chateau.
I threw her the line and she missed it. Chateau.
Go on, say it again. Say it. Let's
I got it.
Yeah, no. Dick and
See what we did there?
Dick and Angel's chat.
Oh.
You see? But actually, we just have that little bit of time together with that. And that has been we just have a chance to reflect, because when you're running 120 miles an hour, you don't see the world going past you.
Not.
And that's like when we go on tours. And we're fortunate because we've been to Australia this year, we're going to America next year, then we're back in the UK doing a big tour as well.
Massive tour the
and
end
all
next
of these
year.
things together just means we can be together and enjoying it.
Exactly, and with children and everything else. The Chateau Forever Home, it's out tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
It's so lovely to see you both. Good luck with everything.
Thank
and
you.
yes, with your lovely life in France. Sounds pretty good right now.